What's up? Welcome to another edition of Hip Hop Roundtable Reviews. Tonight we're gonna do a special um, Hip Hop Roundtable Reviews. We're gonna do a special review commemorating. Let me get that out right. One of the landmark albums of um, the '90s, landmark albums of one of the goats and landmark albums of all time, and that's Nas. It Was Written. Um, you're probably going to see this episode probably tomorrow or sometime on your 4th of July weekend. But today marks July 2nd, which is the 30th anniversary of Nas It Was Written, which was arguably one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. Um, it was an album that started a trend of a different type of sophisticated street hip hop and came out in a time in smack dab in the golden era of hip hop, which was the mid to late 90s, which, if you all know, like really, I would say 1990 to about 2005 was probably the golden era of hip hop as far as the most quality work to ever come out in this game. You know what I mean? So I wanted to do this to really pay homage to this album and give it its due respect. Where debates have started, is It Was Written Nas's greatest hip hop album of all time? Is it better than Illmatic? Is it better than Stillmatic? Is it better than anything through the Hit Boy run? Which many people um, have grown familiar with Nas with his Hit Boy run of late. With that, we are going to do what we do. We're going to talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, um, and we're going to look at its proper place in history. Like, how great is this album? You know what I mean? Is it top five? Is it top two? Is it number one? And we're also going to take a look at that era or that time in hip hop and pay homage to the overall, I would say, the year of 1996. So we're going to start with, before we get to the track list, we're going to start with a little bit of that era of 1996. So we're going to take you back to that time. So, as many of y'all know, Jay-Z has started his commemorative campaign for Reasonable Doubt, which was his landmark album, which many view as a classic album in his catalog, and really was the first album that put Jay-Z on the map. So, with that, that came out literally 1 week before Nas dropped. That came out, I believe, June 26th, 1996. And Nas came out with It Was Written on July 2nd, 1996. And it's ironic that many who herald as the two greatest MCs of all time, they put out arguably their greatest albums, within a week of each other. And of course, there's the legend of Jay-Z. Every time Nas dropped a project or dropped something, that Jay-Z would follow up with something, And really, in the end of the day, it really kind of was the reverse with this, with Jay-Z dropping his first debut album and then Nas coming with It Was Written a week later. You know what I mean? And at that time, in hip hop, it was a very interesting climate. Many thought that Biggie at that time was the king of New York. I mean, that's fresh off of Ready to Die success. I mean, he came with a follow-up compilation with Conspiracy Theory with Junior Mafia, and Biggie was rocking all over the radio. Bad Boy was owning the airwaves. Wu-Tang was in their prime. 1996 brought us Iron Man. Jizza Liquid Swords came out. I mean, this was the time when literally you went to the record store and you couldn't miss. I mean, literally, there was a classic coming out every other week. On the same day, De La Soul came out with Stakes is High. You know, quick story. This was around this time. Now I'm dating myself. I was in my younger teenage years, I'd say. You know, I was just going into high school around that time. Um, and I was living in New York at that time with my cousin. I was living in the Bronx, and I only had but so much money, and I wanted to get Reasonable Doubt. I wanted to get Stakes is High with De La Soul, and I wanted to get It Was Written. I only had money for really two. So I got this is crazy. I got Nas CD. It Was Written, the CD, and I got the Stakes is High cassette tapes. Back then we had cassette tapes. And I said, I'll get Reasonable Doubt when I get back home to South Jersey, because that's where I grew up. I grew up in South Jersey, right outside of Philly. So I got It Was Written, and believe it or not, I was actually listening to Stakes is High more than It Was Written. I was Illmatic at that time. Nas was my favorite rapper. Illmatic was the greatest album I've ever heard in my younger years at that time. And I didn't like It Was Written at first. I was like, I don't know. It's kind of a different sound Nas had. And I wasn't used to it. I wanted more primo production. I wanted more of that Pete Rock sound. I wanted more of a boom bap feel. And this felt like more like a movie up tempo radio record. Like it sounded like it was for the radio. And I wanted more of an underground feel to it. But it grew on me fast. And by the end of the year, I was singing his praises, the best album out right there. You know what I mean? And it's funny, that year Tupac dropped All Eyes on Me. That was the year of the legendary confrontation with Nas and Tupac in, I want to say Bryant Park, or after the MTV Awards or what have you. I don't think it was Bryant Park, but right after MTV Awards, and Nas came out, Tupac came out with All Eyes on Me earlier that year, and then later that year came out with Machiavelli. Ironically, dissing Nas all over that. I mean, calling them out left and right. Now, unfortunately, Tupac passed away. Right before Machiavelli came out, Tupac passed away, and that's what I mean. Just think about that. You had All Eyes on Me and Machiavelli in 1 year. You had It Was Written. You had A Reasonable Doubt. You had Stakes is High. I'm also leaving out Tribe Called Quest had a record there that escapes me right now, but that was a damn near classic record. Told You the Woo Run with Liquid Swords and Iron Man came out that year, so it was like, yeah, like literally, I mean, you couldn't go wrong. You could not go wrong at that time. Outkast came out with ATLiens, I think, that year too. Yeah, ATLiens came out that summer, matter of fact. Yeah, bro. So yeah, it was a time. It's a time to be alive. I mean, that was a time to be alive. So that time really set the tone for some of the greatest hip hop that we ever had. You know what I mean? So let's get to it. Let's pull up the track list and let's do what we do. Talk about Nas, It Was Written. Okay. So, we're gonna start off. What did I like? I liked everything about this album. I mean, I like the tone. I like the feel. It felt like a movie. This was the first album that felt like a feature film. And basically this ushered in the style of the I would say this ushered in the style of boss up rap. What I call boss up rap is the dude calling the shots. Um, the the head guy, the cap, the capo, the the what's the word I'm looking for? The boss of bosses. You know what I mean? It's ushered in that style of hip hop. You know what I mean? And Jay-Z came out a Reasonable Doubt at that time, but that was more of a street hustler album. This was more of I'm a boss now. You know what I mean? And it started out with Nas basically in slave days, and then it fast forwarded all the way later to them getting money, um, talking about all the driving fly cars, fly jewelry, all of that stuff in the intro. You know what I mean? So it's like they made that transition. Like, look how far we've come from being slaves to being the flyest dudes on the planet, and it really ushered in that style of that type of big money, big boss type of rap. This was the original boss rap, boss up rap album. You know what I mean? And it was done in a form of stories, a form of street stories that you learn something, but at the same time, you walked away feeling like, you were that, what. You were the biggest dude in the game at that time. And talked a lot about it. So it was literally like a movie, like a mob movie. So I like the tone of this. I like the lyrics. I mean, these are probably Nas's best lyrics, and some of his best story raps was on this. The only thing I would say what I did not like, I'm not gonna say I didn't like, but what lacked a little bit was the production. But I don't think the production was not bad. It was very good. It wasn't next level production though. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of it had to do with the shock of this was not the boom bap style that I was used to um from Illmatic. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, it was a great album. So let's get to it. Let's walk through the track list. So I told you about the intro. Took you from slave days all the way up to modern times where Nas was a fly boss type dude. Then the message. This is one of Nas's top 10 songs ever. And I mean, legend has it, this is where he originally dissed Jay-Z, talking about Stretch Lex, something about Stretch Lex, TVs and the headrest is the minimum, something like that, right? Basically, kind of a shot at Jay-Z, because when he came out on Reasonable Doubt, he said, he was a big guy. He was big time because he had TVs in his headrest and all that other stuff. I mean, it could have been a shot at Biggie too, because Biggie talked about that, but I don't know. Legend has it, and even Jay brought it up in an interview. He took it that way. That he was coming at Jay in a way on that joint. But anyway, the message is one of the greatest rap songs of all time. Nas's I say a top 10 Nas song. It's just about street fly shit, talking about how fly he is as a boss. I mean, he sets the tone over this real like mafioso style beat that was actually taken from a Sting sample. Sting, formerly of the Police, who's a legendary pop rock and roll singer from the UK, And I think it's the greatest, one of Nas's top 10 songs. Then we go into Street Dreams, which was Nas's one of the Nas singles on there. And ironically, Nas came with this record, and Tupac came with the same sample on All Eyes on Me, you know. And there's a lot of parallels with this album. Like, I almost think, in fact, I knew Tupac was listening to this record. Tupac low-key studied Nas because a lot of the concepts, which you're going to get to in the next song, that Tupac had, he got from It Was Written. You could take the sample from Street Dreams, that one, and Tupac took some of the street content and the I'd say the boss element, like the teaching element of being a boss and being in the streets, he took from It Was Written. You know what I mean? You could tell in some of the songs. So we go into I Gave You Power, which I think is one of the hands down greatest songs of all time. Nas basically takes the personifies himself in the form of a gun. You know what I mean? And getting back to the Tupac theme, Tupac used the same type of theme on Me and My Girlfriend. You know what I mean? So Tupac did the same thing on Machiavelli. You know what I mean? With Me and My Girlfriend. So you could tell Tupac studied Nas, but this was from the beat that Primo gave Nas from DJ Premier to the lyrics to the just the visualization of it all. Visualization. Let me get it out right. On I Gave You Power. This is one of the greatest rap songs of all time. You know what I mean? So you got one of Nas's top songs of all time, one of Nas's best singles in Street Dreams, to I Gave You Power, which is one of the greatest rap songs, hands down, and has been mimicked by plenty of rappers personifying themselves in different objects, in guns, in, you know, the form of hip hop, all kinds of things, in women, and all kinds of things. I mean, many people have used this concept. Kendrick Lamar has used this concept. I mean, the list goes on. So definitely I Gave You Power is up there. Then Watch Them ends with Foxy Brown. A little bit of a low tempo joint, like, but at the same time, this joint, like, you learn something, you know what I mean? Basically, it's a setup, talking about a little story about getting set up in the streets, and how dudes was setting you up, and why you always got to watch your back, watch your neck if you a street boss, you know what I mean? Then Take It in Blood. I like the production on there. It's just this dark, real gritty beat. You know what I mean? I want to say Havoc did this beat, if I'm not correct, which is another hard street cut. You know what I mean? Then comes another song where over the years, people have been conflicted about this, with Dr. Dre doing the production on here. Now, after this album, Nas and Dr. Dre, they formed a firm, which was, you know, AZ, Foxy Brown, Nature, Dr. Dre. And they had an album that has been debated as being one of the weaker collaboration albums of all time. I beg to differ. I think it was great. There's some legendary moments on there. I mean, Noriega came with made his debut to the world on there. You know what I mean? As a solo guy, I mean, Cormega was on there. Cannabis was on there. I mean, they had some classic moments on there. Phone Tap. But anyway, I digress with the Firm album. We could have that debate for another day. But anyway, I think Nas Is Coming was a fire record to me. A lot of people have said over the years that Dre beats don't mix with Nas. I beg to differ. Like, just about every time they've come together, they put out a fire production. This was fire song to me, but I don't know. Some people might beg to differ. Then another classic cut, one of the greatest collaboration cuts of all time, and really the birth of the firm with affirmative action. I mean, sit back, relax, catch a contact. You know, you could just go on from this as one of the greatest collabs of all time, where AZ again shined. I mean, this was after Sugar Hill and after, you know, Life's a Bitch on Illmatic, where AZ made his presence known to the world, and he killed it on this too. You know what I mean? I mean, you could even rival that he out rapped everybody and outpaced Nas on this. I still think it's a debate between Nas and AZ having the better verse. I think Foxy definitely came on there, and this was her kind of debut to the world, um, with on affirmative action. You know what I mean? Because after this, this really um, brought out Foxy Brown as one of the A-list female artists at that time. I know she was on the Hushachi remix with LL Cool J in '95, but after that, she followed up with this, and she was the first lady of the firm. I mean, so a lot of legends were born off of this. And not to lose sight, Corn Mega, at one point there was a lot of buzz around him. You know what I mean? As far as he was more in the Mob Deep vein of things, as far as a street MC. He never amounted to being what he was supposed to be, but I thought Corn Mega was a low-key great street rapper. You know what I mean? Never got the credit he really deserved. But anyway, phenomenal song. Then the setup, you know, another setup story on here, you know what I mean? Where, you know, they set another dude up in the streets, and Havoc, he the hook on here is A1. I mean, Havoc, the one thing about Mobb Deep is they have these, I would say, these kind of chants that come off on hooks, where they're long hooks, but you remember them because they're purposeful. You know what I mean? And Havoc blessed him with a fire hook on this, and it's got a dark like street beat. Havoc did the production on this, so that's great. And then Black Girl Lost, which is a story about a girl. This is one of the first stories about, you know, the term "she's for the streets." This is kind of the birth of that, because a lot of rappers didn't talk about this much at that time. You know what I mean? Girls that were fast women, you know, in the streets like that were talked about, but they didn't do real stories about this. There's also Ho Happy Jackie on AZ's debut, Do or Die, but this is kind of in that vein, about a girl that kind of was lost to be in the streets, about getting money, you know, hustling dudes for money and all that other stuff. Dope story joint. Then Suspect and Shootouts, which these songs were good songs, but I don't think they were better than anything else previously to that point. But still, dope beats, dope stories. Shootouts is another street gangster story on it that was fire. And then Live and Rap. Oh my God, this was one of the hardest beats, hardest songs ever. And Nas and Mobb Deep, you know, it's a shame that Prodigy passed away, but I think Nas and Mobb Deep should have had a collabo album in as like a mini group. You know what I mean? The three of them, I mean, it's underrated how well they work together. Like they just fit so well. I mean, even up to the new Mobb Deep album, Infinite, with Nas and Havoc, you could still hear the chemistry on there. And this is where the origins of this started. I mean, Live and Rap. I mean, on Mobb Deep's debut album. You know what I mean? Like that joint that they had. You know, they had another joint on Hell on Earth. I mean, you never got a whack or a weak Mob Deep and Nas song. Almost what was the song on Murder Music? Um that joint on there. Um we don't give a fuck. Thug life is mine. That over that Scarface beat. Oh man. But this was kind of like the origins of it. This right here, live nigga rap, man. Trying not to say that the N word like that, you know. I'm trying to cut back, but live and rap, you know, definitely one of the greatest songs, greatest street records of all time, I think, you know. And then, of course, I mean, maybe one of the crown jewels of Nas's catalog, If I Rule the World with Lauryn Hill, I think this was probably his greatest single of all time, his greatest single record that he ever put out. The Immaculate Lauryn Hill, you know what I mean? Which, I mean, side note, they had a phenomenal tribute to her, the BET Awards this past weekend, and they performed this song. Nas and Doja Cat paid tribute to Lauryn Hill with this, but this song will ring on forever as one of the greatest hip hop singles of all time, you know. So yeah, so really, I mean, you don't really go wrong on this album. There's nothing really not to like. And it plays like a movie like all the way throughout. So let's go ahead and let's do what we got to do here, and let's go ahead and type this up. So all right, production. I would have to go with, I would probably say a 9 out of 10. I'd probably say a 9 out of 10. The only thing that made it not perfect was, I say, yeah, I'll go with a 9 out of 10. I mean, this is a Trackmasters production, and I thought Trackmasters was like a B level, B list type of producer back in that time. They were good, not great. And this is kind of where the moniker came, where, you know, Nas really wasn't great with beats, you know, but I think the production on this still was effective and got the message across. I still go 9 out of 10 on the production. To um, flows and energy, I go 9.5 out of 10. I mean, the whole boss aura of Nas was immaculate on this record. He just had a boss aura unto his own on this, and he had a very clear diction and flows where you could hear his lyrics, you understood the stories, the energy was right, the tone was right, where you know, it doesn't seem like he was overdoing things. His tone was just perfect. You know what I mean? Similar to, not to digress, but Reasonable Doubt, where I think some of the tones was perfect with Jay-Z on that. Actually, Flows and Energy, I'm gonna go with a 10 on that one. Let's go with a 10 on that. I think that's perfect. Definitely, man. That's perfectly, man. So so yeah, I would definitely go with that for Flows and Energy. So let's do that. What else we got here? That's one. Features. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with a 9.5 out of 10 on that one. I don't really think Dr. Dre should have been rapping, or Dr. Dre should have really been on that. I think they just had too much talking on that record. I'm nitpicking now, and but outside of that, it's pretty much perfect. I mean, that's why I'd say that the features are 9. 9.5 out of 10. The hooks were perfect. I mean, he had legendary production, legendary features from Lauryn Hill, from Mobb Deep. Um, of course, the Firm on there. I mean, Foxy coming out and making her debut to the world. So outside of that little Dre, where Dre didn't need to be talking on there, I'll probably go and say it's probably a 9.5 out of 10. You know what I mean? Replay value, I say this is a 10 out of 10, man. I could put this on, and this is easily one of the greatest hip hop records of all time that is never going to lose on any steam. So I say a 10 out of 10 with that on replay value. And overall rating, I'm going to have to go to a drum roll, please. I'm going with a 9.8 out of 10. Outside of a couple of nitpicky moments or a couple of songs that were just okay, but still phenomenal stories in Shootouts and Suspect, this album is damn near perfect. So I got to go 9.8 out of 10. And yeah, you can take that home, man. This is one of Nas's best works. Where does it stack up in Nas's catalog? Well, there has been momentum to say that it's better than Illmatic, but Illmatic is so celebrated, I can't put it over Illmatic. I think it's a very close number 2. But you can make the argument that for 1996, it was the greatest album of all time, or the greatest album of that year in 1996. I think as far as and let me get out of that, let's just get to what the album legacy is concerned. First, I'll look at album legacy of that time. In 1996, I think next to, it's probably neck and neck with that. I might say All Eyes on Me is a little bit better, but it's neck and neck with that. I mean, you could take your pick with that and Tupac's record, and think about that. That's a double album for Tupac. I think It Was Written is better than Iron Man. I think It Was Written is a little bit better than Reasonable Doubt, even though Reasonable Doubt makes my top 10 all time. I think it's better than Machiavelli, which I think Machiavelli might be in my top 10 all time. You know what I mean? It's better than Hell on Earth. It was that album for that year. And Nas, everybody gets into who was the king of that summer, and who's got a song for the summer and songs for the summer and all that. Who's got the summer song? If I Rule the World was that song of the summer. I remember that summer. All that rocked all summer was Nas and Lauryn Hill. Was Nas It Was Written was rocking, and Fugees The Score, which came out in 1995. You know what I mean? Those were the standout albums of that summer of 96. Reasonable Doubt didn't really gain steam till really when Jay-Z blew up later. You know what I mean? It was still a hot album, but it wasn't that album that people looked at as the greatest, one of Jay's greatest albums at that time. It kind of had to grow on people, Reasonable Doubt. Nas that year owned that summer. You know what I mean? It was Nas, Fugees on the East Coast. It was Tupac on the West Coast. And Nas owned that summer. And If I Rule the World was that song of the summer. So Nas, he had his who got the song of the summer moment. That was Nas, If I Rule the World. So I say that. And today, where does it stack up all time? Like I said, it's not better than Illmatic, I don't think, but it's very close. I think Illmatic's a perfect 10. My personal top 5 albums of all time are The Chronic by Dr. Dre, number 1. Number 2, Illmatic. Number 3, Life After Death. Notorious B.I.G. I think number 4, I would go It Was Written. Number 5, All Eyes on Me by Tupac. That would be my top 5. If you want to round out the top 10, I would probably have to say A Reasonable Doubt is at 6. 7, I probably have to say is Tupac. I probably say Tupac. What am I saying? Tupac Machiavelli. 8, I'd probably have to say is I'd probably go with Enter the Wu. Wu-Tang's first. 9, I'd probably have to go with maybe Infamous Mobb Deep. Or Darkest Hellicide. I don't know. And then 10, I'd probably have to go with Get Rich or Die Trying by 50. But yeah, to me, this is easily top 5 album of all time. And people may say it's Nas's best. The only thing I would say is the production is a little bit lesser than that on Illmatic. So that's why I'd give Illmatic the edge. But overall, this album right here, I mean, its legacy lives on, man. Its legacy lives on, and really, I tell you, man, like every time I hear that album, it just takes me back to, you know, my teenage years, teenage years, and it just reminds you of how great that time was, what a time it was to be alive in hip hop. But tell me what you think about Nas. It Was Written. Is it in your top 5? Is it your top 3? Is it the greatest album of all time in your opinion? Is it Nas's best? Does it top Illmatic? You know, and yeah, so definitely y'all gonna see this weekend, you know, given this July 2nd, but we're gonna come back with some more content. I still got some reviews to get to. We're gonna have some guests come on, our esteemed guests that usually come on with us to debate some of these topics. But anyway, you tell me what you think. Where does Nas It Was Written stack up? And definitely pay homage to this. If you haven't listened to it in a while, give it a spin, because I spun it the other day and I was like, damn, this album doesn't skip a beat at all. As far as one of the top records, I mean, it's like you're listening to it for the first time, literally. So we're gonna come back with some more content, and y'all, if I don't see y'all before the 4th of July weekend, have a happy 4th of July. But we will be coming back with some content this weekend, so definitely look out for that. All right. So with all that, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll catch up with y'all later. All right. Peace.